Welcome to the Legacy Project podcast, where we explore the art of storytelling and how sharing your journey can create a lasting impact. I'm your host, Don Fessenden, and today we're tackling one of the most important elements of storytelling: how to craft a captivating beginning and a memorable ending. A great story pulls you in from the very first sentence. It makes you lean in, eager to know more. But just as important as the beginning is the ending, because that's what stays with your reader long after they've finished the last word. Think about some of the best stories you've ever read or heard. Chances are they started with something that made you curious, intrigued, or emotionally invested, and they ended in a way that left you satisfied, reflective, or even wanting more. So today, we're going to explore how to hook your reader right from the start, how to keep them engaged throughout, and how to close your story in a way that resonates. Whether you're writing a memoir, a personal essay, or even a journal entry, these strategies will help you craft beginnings and endings that matter. Let's get started. The first few sentences of your story are like a handshake. They introduce your reader to your world, set the tone, and invite them to stay. But too often, writers start with background information, trying to explain too much before getting to the heart of the story. A great beginning drops the reader into the moment. It gives them a reason to keep reading. There are a few classic ways to do this. Start with action. Instead of setting the scene for paragraphs, open right in the middle of something happening. Instead of, "It was a summer afternoon, and I was walking down Main Street with my sister when everything changed." Try, "My sister grabbed my arm. 'Run,' she said, and that's when I saw it." Use a vivid image. Engage the senses immediately. Instead of, "My grandmother's house was always warm and inviting." Try, "The scent of cinnamon and old books clung to my grandmother's house, wrapping around me like an old quilt." Ask a question or make a bold statement. Draw the reader in with curiosity. "The moment I picked up the phone, I knew my life would never be the same. I never believed in fate until the day it proved me wrong." When you write your beginning, ask yourself, "If I were reading this, would I want to keep going?" If not, try starting closer to the action, adding a sensory detail, or making a statement that compels the reader forward. One of the biggest mistakes writers make at the start of their story is over-explaining. They feel the need to give background information before getting to the moment that matters. But readers don't need all the context up front. They need something to care about first. For example, instead of, "When I was 10 years old, my family moved to a small town in Ohio. It was quiet, and everyone knew everyone. My father worked in construction, and my mother stayed home with us. One afternoon, something happened that changed everything." Cut the setup and start with the moment itself. "The sound of tires screeching sent me running to the window. A truck, a blur, then silence. And just like that, our sleepy little town would never be the same." The key is to trust that you can fill in details later. Hook the reader first, then give them the background they need as the story unfolds. If the beginning of your story is a handshake, the ending is the farewell. It's the feeling your reader walks away with. A weak ending can make an otherwise great story forgettable, but a strong ending, that's what makes a story stick. There are different ways to end a story effectively. The full circle ending. Bring the reader back to an image, phrase, or theme from the beginning. If your story starts with a childhood memory of standing on a dock, end with that same dock, this time from the perspective of an adult looking back. A reflective ending. Instead of tying everything up neatly, leave the reader with a thought or realization. "I never saw him again after that day. But every time I hear the sound of a harmonica, I think of my father and the song he never finished playing." An open-ended conclusion. Some of the best endings don't provide all the answers. They let the reader fill in the blanks. "The train doors closed. I had a choice. go back, or step forward. I took a breath, and then I moved. A great ending should feel complete, even if it doesn't tie up every loose end. It should leave the reader feeling something, whether it's satisfaction, nostalgia, or a sense of possibility. Just like weak beginnings, weak endings can leave your reader feeling disconnected. Here are a few pitfalls to avoid. Over explaining. Don't tell the reader what they should take away from the story. Let the story speak for itself. Instead of, and that's how I learned to always trust my instincts. Try. I didn't hesitate this time. I turned the key and drove away. Ending too abruptly. If you build up an emotional moment, don't cut it off too quickly. Let it breathe. Trying to force a happy ending. Not every story needs a perfect resolution. Sometimes the most powerful endings are bittersweet or open-ended. When you finish writing, read your ending aloud. Does it feel complete? Does it resonate emotionally? If not, try going back and letting the story breathe a little more before closing it out. When you combine a strong beginning with a memorable ending, your story becomes something people remember. If you're working on a story, go back and look at your first and last sentences. Do they pull the reader in and leave them with something to hold on to? Here's a challenge for you this week. Take a story you've written and rework the opening. Make it sharper, more intriguing, more alive. Look at your ending. Does it leave an impact? Does it feel complete? If not, try a different approach. And remember, stories aren't just about what happens. They're about how they make us feel. A great beginning makes us curious. A great ending makes us reflect. If today's episode helped you, I'd love to hear from you. Connect with me on social media or visit my website. And if you want more tools to craft unforgettable stories, check out my book, The Legacy Project, A Guide to Sharing Your Story. Thank you for joining me on the Legacy Project podcast. Your stories matter. Start writing, start sharing, and leave your mark. I'll see you next time.